Edgar Allan, Chapter 25. I hadn't talked much about how I feel towards Father now. It isn't easy, really, is why. One day I feel one thing, and the next day something different altogether. But he didn't want to take one of our walks. I didn't want to have a talk alone with him. I was glad he was busy at church, and all I really wanted was to be left alone with Amman or my books or something until I figured out what I figure out. The thing is, if you decide to do something, then you do it. You can't change your mind all the time. Maybe that's too simple. What I mean is if you want EA, then you want him. You have to worry about a lot of stuff, of course, but these worries have to come after you worry about him. At least they would with me. I think people would have gotten used to EA after a while. They might have even forgotten all about him sometime. After all, they got other things to do besides complain about one little kid. And if people can't forget, so could Father's church. If people can forget, so could Father's church. If Father had stood up the way he was always telling us to do, people would have had to say something like, well, maybe I don't quite understand him, but I got to admire him anyway. That would have done it, I think. That word admire. If Mother can tell me it isn't always as important to understand someone as it is to stand beside them, then they're all in trouble, which is what I figured she was really saying. Then the same thing would go for other people too. They didn't have to understand Father as long as they could count on him. And that, you see, is what I couldn't do anymore. Count on him. He had told me what was important and what wasn't, and then he went ahead and mixed it up. And everything that happened to us and to EA happened just because he did get them mixed up. Amman would have made her own kind of deal with herself about EA in time. The parents of the church school kids would too, because they would have had to. It's probably the best school around, and it's easy to find a grocery store for shopping. The cross, of course, is something else. But as Amman said to me once, how many nights can you stay up late just to strike a match? So you can see why I didn't want to talk with Father. At least not yet. Naturally, I had to. The very next day, he just came and asked me. I couldn't have said no. I just couldn't have.